Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. Dynamite tonight was from the UNO Lakefront Arena in New Orleans, Louisiana. And AEW has been trying to get Dynamite to come to New Orleans, and it kept on getting pushed back. They were originally supposed to come to New Orleans in January, but that didn't happen due to a scheduling conflict. So they end up moving that date to tonight, April 13th. So New Orleans finally saw a Dynamite show. But Dynamite tonight, I thought it was a good show, in my opinion. Did have, a gripe with the show with two things, though. But if you took all that out, this would still been a good show. But tonight on Dynamite, we had CM Punk versus Penta Oscuro. Of course, originally known as Penta El Zero Miedo. And we had the AEW World Tag Team Championship on the line, where the Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy, and Luchasaurus defend the titles against Redragon, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish. We had MJF in action tonight. He ended up taking on Captain Shawn Dean. We had a trios tag team match. Jericho, Daniel Garcia, and Jake Hager versus Eddie Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz. We had the debut of Marina Shafir, and she had taken on Skye Blue. We had Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Will Hobbs versus Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. And in the main event, the ROH, the Ring of Honor World Television Championship, was on the line. Minoru Suzuki defended the title against Samoa Joe. And in the end, we had a debut, which I will get to. I'm like, when that happened, I'm like, oh my God. Did they really do this? Well, I'll get to explain that. But overall, Dynamite was a good show, in my opinion. Minus the two things that I did not like, that I will get to. But before I get into the review, got this little piece of news here that was released. And it has to do with the AEW video game. So, according to Fightful Select, they ended up reporting that there has been internal talk of the game being released in September. But that is tentative and not official. So the AEW video game may be released much earlier than originally expected. So it was noted that there is plenty of work to be done on the game, but the plan for some time has been to release the game this year, and that September is widely regarded as the target time frame as of this week. An AEW source stressed that this is a tentative release date, and there's a publisher involved. It was also said that fans can expect the game fairly soon if all goes well, but a lot of things can change between now in September. And Ukes is behind the game. So it says Kenny Omega is said to be determined for the AEW video game to be a success. And word is that he understands how integral a great showing could be. The official AEW video game is scheduled to be released on PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, and Xbox One. So the game, as it said in the article, it's a tentative release for September, but things may change between now and September. But I'm looking forward to the game, and when the game is done, I like to see, gameplay of it, see how the game looks. So I'm looking forward to when the game comes out. But like I said in the article, Tentative release date set for September, and who knows, things may change. But we'll have to wait and see. But definitely looking forward to the AEW game. Now let's jump right into the review. Dynamite opened up tonight with CM Punk versus Penta Oscuro. I think that's how you pronounce the last name. But this, of course, was Penta El Zero Miedo. Penta came out along with Alex Abrahantes. And this was a dream match here. This was a dream match on paper. And both guys delivered in this match. This was a very good, entertaining match here. So we had a stare down, a long stare down between Punk and Penta. Penta was leading the crowd to Cero Miedo chants. So Punk and Penta end up trading some strikes in the middle of the ring. It led to both guys delivering an exchange of chops to each other. Very lengthy exchange of chops from the both of them. And that led to them trading punches to each other. Punk ended up missing a clothesline, and Penta came back, ended up hitting a super kick to Punk. So Punk ended up grabbing a knuckle lock on Penta. He ended up running up the turnbuckle, and he ended up back flipping into the ring to arm drag Penta. Punk then ended up picking up Penta to go for the GTS, but Penta ended up reversing that, and Punk was able to send Penta into the corner. He followed that up with a rising knee strike to Penta. Punk ended up trying to pull Penta out into a clothesline, but Penta reversed that into a sling blade on Punk. Penta ended up going for the cover, and Punk kicked out at 2. So Penta ended up attacking Punk's knee, ended up sending Punk to the outside. Punk did a top suicider to the floor to Penta, which was cool. So Punk ended up appearing to go for a Frankensteiner, but he couldn't get it, and both Punk and Penta fell into the ring. And Penta ended up poisoning Punk up onto the top rope, but Punk ended up reversing that. He ended up putting Penta on the top rope. He climbed up. He brought Penta down with the Frankensteiner, and Punk ended up going for the GTS once again, but Penta ended up escaping out of that as Penta was looking to go for an arm breaker on Punk. Punk ended up escaping the arm breaker, and he locked in the Anaconda Vice on Penta. Penta ended up getting his foot on the ropes to break up the Anaconda Vice. So both men ended up crawling out to the ring apron. Both guys started trading strikes. Penta ended up kicking Punk in the gut. He ended up trying to go for a package pile driver on the ring apron. Punk ended up escaping, and he delivered a kick, which sent Penta back into the ring. Punk followed it up and delivered a springboard clothesline to Penta. So Punk ended up hitting his rising knee strike in the corner to Penta, and he pulled Penta out, and he delivered a clothesline. Punk was signaling for the GTS. He ended up poisoning up Penta. Penta blocked it by grabbing Punk's knee. Penta ended up going for a package pile driver, but Punk ended up escaping. Penta got him in position for a arm breaker, but Punk ended up reversing that into a roll-up, to which Penta ended up kicking out. Penta ended up going for a springboard, and Punk ended up catching Penta on his shoulders, and that's when Punk delivered the GTS on Penta, and Punk ended up going for the cover, and there you go. Punk ended up winning the match. Overall, very good, entertaining match from Punk and Penta. Both guys delivered here, from them having that long stare down in the beginning to them doing very lengthy chops to each other. Just a very physical entertaining, good match it was here by both guys. But it was a dream match on paper. But they delivered. And then we saw the Jericho Appreciation Society. They ended up getting off their private jet. Jericho ended up saying that's how sports entertainers travel. So Jericho then ended up getting cut off by Eddie Kingston, Santana, Ortiz. They ended up driving up to them, and they ended up reminding Jericho and Hager and Daniel Garcia that it's on for tonight. So they ended up leaving Matt Menard and Angelo Parker lying there, shoeless, and they were in agony. So that was pretty much that. Just a setup for the trios match with Jericho, Hager, and Daniel Garcia, and Eddie Kingston, Santana, Ortiz. But that was that. And then we had the Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus versus Redragon, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly. The AEW World Tag Team titles were on the line. This was a very entertaining match here. So we had Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus end up coming out along with Christian Cage. They end up coming out last. Redragon, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish end up coming out first. So the match started off with Jungle Boy and Bobby Fish. Jungle Boy hit a flying head scissors to Bobby Fish and then a drop kick. Bobby Fish came back and he ended up taking out Jungle Boy. He ended up tagging in Kyle O'Reilly. Kyle O'Reilly came in. He started grounding Jungle Boy with a headlock. Luchasaurus tagged in, started pounding on Kyle O'Reilly in the corner. So Kyle O'Reilly came back and he tied up Luchasaurus in the ropes. He sent Luchasaurus to the outside where Bobby Fish ended up attacking Luchasaurus' leg. Bobby Fish then got back to the ring. He ended up going for a pin and Luchasaurus ended up kicking out. Kyle O'Reilly ended up tagging in, and so him and Bobby Fish started double teaming on Luchasaurus. So Bobby Fish ended up coming back in. Another double team done by Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly. So Luchasaurus ended up stretching away from Kyle O'Reilly. He tagged in Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy ended up hitting a lariat on Kyle O'Reilly. Kyle O'Reilly escaped to the floor. Jungle Boy ended up hitting a dive on Kyle O'Reilly. And then Luchasaurus delivered a moonsault that took down both Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. That moonsault looked awesome as Luchasaurus did it. Hell, Luchasaurus has a better moonsault than Charlotte Flair. Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish were able to attack Jungle Boy's leg to take control of the match. So Kyle O'Reilly ended up having Jungle Boy in a cross arm breaker. Jungle Boy ended up using a pin attempt to escape the arm break. So Kyle O'Reilly ended up maintaining control of the match. Jungle Boy then ended up using the ropes to escape, and he made the tag to Luchasaurus. Luchasaurus came in. He took out both O'Reilly and Fish. He ended up doing running dives into the corner on both guys. He delivered double clotheslines to O'Reilly and Fish. He ended up putting them both down. Luchasaurus followed up with a double choke slam to them and delivered a standing moonsault to Kyle O'Reilly. And Luchasaurus ended up going for the cover. O'Reilly ended up kicking out. There was a point where Kyle O'Reilly delivered a butterfly suplex onto Jungle Boy. And Kyle O'Reilly ended up going for a cross arm breaker, to which Jungle Boy ended up getting to the ropes to break it up. And we had one point in the match where Kyle O'Reilly ended up reversing a guillotine while Bobby Fish ended up hitting a Falcon Arrow on Jungle Boy from the top rope, which that looked awesome. That looked great with Bobby Fish hitting that Falcon Arrow on Jungle Boy. Good spot in the match there. So we had Luchasaurus and Kyle O'Reilly. They end up breaking up the pin. So Kyle O'Reilly and Luchasaurus end up trading strikes in the middle of the ring. Jungle Boy end up stepping in, but he was taken down by Bobby Fish. Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy end up hitting the Redragon Express finisher on Kyle O'Reilly. And there you go. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus ended up winning the match, retaining the AEW World Tag Team titles. Post-match, Kyle O'Reilly end up attacking Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus with a chair. Him and Bobby Fish end up stumbling away, and FTR end up blocking their escape up the ramp. Redragon, Bobby Fish, and Kyle O'Reilly. FTR end up blocking them, and FTR end up posing with both the ROH, the Ring of Honor, and AAA tag team titles. FTR then got into the faces of Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, and that was that. But overall, awesome match between Jurassic Express and Redragon. Very good match. And that Falcon Arrow that Bobby Fish ended up hitting on Jungle Boy, good spot there. And then we went backstage. Tony Schiavone was interviewing the Blackpool Combat Club, William Regal, Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson, and Wheeler Yuta. Wheeler Yuta coming off of a awesome, great match with Jon Moxley last week on Rampage, where Wheeler Yuta was bloodied up. He was a bloody mess. And William Regal at the end ended up giving out his hand, and Wheeler Yuta ended up shaking William Regal's hand. That was such an awesome match last week on Rampage. But Jon Moxley ended up saying that the Gun Club is a bunch of goofs, to which they are facing Austin and Colton on Friday on Rampage. So Moxley ended up calling both Austin and Colton a bunch of goofs, and they need less of that in AEW. Wheeler Yuta ended up saying that on Friday, the real work begins. So there you go. That's the match for Friday on Rampage. And then as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Tony Schiavone was with Jamie Hayter and Tony Storm. And they will meet in the Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament. And Jamie Hayter ended up saying that she's going to break Tony Storm's face. So with Jamie Hayter ended up saying that to Tony Storm. Tony Storm was just silent. She said nothing. She smirked at what Jamie Hayter had to say, and she walked off. So that was that. And then we had MJF. MJF ended up coming out along with Shawn Spears. He ended up taking on Captain Shawn Dean. So, of course, security was all around the arena to keep Wardlow out of there, because Excalibur ended up saying that on commentary. So, MJF still banning Wardlow from appearing on AEW and coming into the arena. So MJF ended up, struggling to take off his jacket. He was acting like he was struggling to take it off. And a lot of people were like, oh, that's a botch there. I think it was just, a work. I think MJF just planned that. So Shawn Dean ended up jawing at Shawn Spears And that's when MJF ended up attacking the captain, Shawn Dean. So MJF's jacket wasn't broken. So MJF ended up shipping Shawn Dean upside down to the corner. MJF was posing for the crowd, to which they booed the hell out of him. So then it cut to security backstage. And it was a group of these security guards taken out. They were unconscious. So that's when you know that Wardlow has gotten into the arena. So MJF ended up sending Dean to the outside, whipped him into the barricade. MJF started posing with his back to the barricade, and we see this security guard end up walking up. He was wearing a face mask. So this guard ended up unmasking himself, and it was Wardlow. MJF didn't know that Wardlow was behind him. So MJF turned around, saw Wardlow. MJF ended up running from Wardlow. He ran into the ring, so Wardlow was chasing MJF. Shawn Spears ended up trying to hit Wardlow from behind with a chair, and it did nothing to Wardlow. Wardlow was trying to powerbomb Shawn Spears on the outside, but security ended up running down. Wardlow was just taking down the security guards, and he ended up powerbombing one of the guards on the ring apron. So the referee, who was Bryce Rumsberg, he was counting for MJF to get back into the ring, but MJF couldn't, or he wouldn't get back into the ring, as Wardlow was right there. Wardlow was right next to the ring. So MJF then got on the mic. He tried to bribe Bryce Rumsberg to stop the count, because Bryce ended up counting to 9, and that's when MJF got on the mic. He was bribing Rumsberg to stop the count, but the fans were chanting 10, 10, 10. So Bryce Rumsberg counted the 10, and MJF was counted out, and you had a hilarious look of shock on MJF's face. You know, he had his, he was looking like that with his eyes like, it was hilarious. Somebody needs to meme that of MJF, of that shocked reaction on MJF's face. Somebody has to do it. But it was funny. So Captain Shawn Dean ended up winning the match by countout. And I think that's the very first countout in AEW. So then MJF got back to the ring. He got in Bryce Rumsberg's face. He was shoving Rumsberg. Rumsberg was having none of that. So Shawn Spears got in between the both of them. So then we went backstage and we saw Wardlow was still beating up on security guards. Wardlow ended up grabbing a camera. He screamed and he said that it's not going to end until he's released from his contract with MJF. So basically he was saying to MJF, oh, it's not going to end until you release me from the contract, from his contract. So, but that was that. But really loving this storyline with MJF and Wardlow. This storyline has been amazing, and they are doing a good job with it. It's very entertaining. And then we had a video of Darby Allin, very nicely shot in black and white, where Darby Allin is skateboarding through the streets. And Darby Allin ended up telling Andrade El Idolo that he's going to put a nail in this whole thing. So Darby Allin stated that he challenges Andrade to a coffin match. So there you go, Darby Allin versus Andrade in a coffin match. Should be a good match there. And then we had a vignette from Malachi Black. Black was talking about ripping open his throat to find a dark abyss of razor blades. But maybe one day you'll appreciate that. Black went on to say that until then, you'll appreciate a fan base that loves you and applauds you because the house wanted it so. And they'll drag down the brightest part of your soul and kill it. And he wants you to be afraid of the shadows. So that was what Malachi Black had to say in that vignette. Very creepy vignette from Malachi Black, but very good. And then we had the Trios Tag Team match. Chris Jericho, Daniel Garcia, and Jake Hager versus Eddie Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz. And this was an entertaining Trios Tag Team match. We had Jericho, Daniel Garcia, and Jake Hager end up coming out first. And they end up entering into Judas. And the crowd was singing along, of course. The crowd never gets tired of singing Judas by Fozzy, by Jericho's band. So Daniel Garcia was shown wearing a backwards kanga hat. And then Eddie Kingston, Santana, Ortiz ended up coming out. Santana Ortiz ended up bringing the shoes of Matt Menard and Angelo Parker with them. You know, they were wearing them around their neck. So the match started off with Jericho and Santana. Santana ended up backing Jericho into the corner, started punching away on Jericho. Santana then ended up laying a boot into Jericho. Jericho came back. He tried to deliver some chops, but Santana ended up coming back and taking out Jericho. Santana then delivered a double leg takedown to Jericho, and he was landing more punches as everyone else was brawling out on the floor. So Santana was still being down on Jericho. Santana then ended up taking in Ortiz, and Ortiz and Santana ended up double teaming on Jericho. Jake Hager ended up taking a cheap shot on Ortiz from the apron, and that led to Jericho taking advantage of the match. Jericho then ended up taking in Hager. So Jericho and Hager delivered a double flapjack on Ortiz, and Hager ended up working on Ortiz. Ortiz ended up attacking Hager's knee, and he managed to sunset flip on Hager. He ended up going for the pin, and so Hager ended up powering Ortiz into his corner and tagged in Daniel Garcia. Daniel Garcia ended up bringing in Jericho, and Jericho ended up hitting the belly-to-back suplex on Ortiz. So Ortiz was still getting beat up by Jericho as Dynamite came back from the commercial. Ortiz ended up charging right into a drop kick by Jericho. Jericho flipped off Kingston to lure Kingston into the ring. So Jericho was going for the lion salt. Ortiz ended up moving out of it, and Ortiz ended up crawling to the corner. So Jericho ended up grabbing Ortiz's boot to slow him down. Ortiz rolled through, and he took Jericho down. So Ortiz ended up tagging in Eddie Kingston. Kingston ended up taking down Jake Hager and Daniel Garcia. He tagged in Santana. Santana then ended up hitting Eddie Guerrero's famous Three Amigos on Daniel Garcia. Santana ended up going up to the top. He ended up landing a frog splash on Daniel Garcia, and he went for the cover. Daniel Garcia ended up kicking out at 2. So Eddie Kingston ended up knocking Jake Hager off the ring apron. He ended up hitting the dive to the outside, which took out Hager. So Menard and Parker ran down. Ortiz took both guys out with a dive. Kingston ended up tagging in. He ended up hitting an exploder suplex on Daniel Garcia. Eddie Kingston ended up going for the spinning back fist, but Daniel Garcia ended up pushing him off. Jericho ended up sneaking in a shot with the baseball bat, with Floyd to Eddie Kingston. So Daniel Garcia ended up covering, and there you go. Jericho, Daniel Garcia, and Jake Hager ended up winning the match. Post-match, the whole Jericho Appreciation Society ended up being down on Kingston, Santana, Ortiz. And that was basically that. But overall, very entertaining trios tag team match. And Jericho Appreciation Society is not finished yet with Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz. But this feud has been, going good with the Jericho Appreciation Society on Ortiz, Santana, and Eddie Kingston. And then we saw Alex Marvez. Alex Marvez was backstage with MJF. And so Mark Sterling was there. Mark Sterling ended up saying that he has the right to book Wardlow against anyone he wishes. So MJF ended up saying that he has the best idea. So MJF ended up handing an envelope to Jose, the assistant. Jose, who assists Andrade. He ended up saying that he's going to send the Butcher to go after Wardlow. So that was that. So the Butcher is going to be going one-on-one with Wardlow. So, but Wardlow, he's going to get that win on the Butcher. And then we had the debut of Marina Shafir. Marina Shafir ended up taking on Skye Blue, and what a horrible, horrible debut for Marina Shafir. This match put the crowd in a coma. They did not enjoy this match. This match was awful. This match was terrible. Marina Shafir, when she was in NXT, she wasn't that great down there. Triple H couldn't make her, great down there. Shayna Baszler couldn't make Marina Shafir great. Jessamine Duke couldn't make her good. And look what we got here tonight. She debuts, and what a snoozer of a match it was. So Jay Cargill and Mark Sterling were backstage. Jay Cargill did not even care to see this match with Marina Shafir. So Mark Sterling was just taking notes. Marina Shafir was just overpowering on Skye Blue throughout the whole match. She ended up beating Skye Blue, locked in a triangle submission. And there you go. Marina Shafir ended up winning the match. Awful fucking match. What a horrible debut for Marina Shafir. She put that crowd, like I said, into a coma. Nobody in that crowd cared about this match. And then we had Lexi Nair. She was backstage with Hook. Hook will be competing on Dynamite next week, which is awesome. And they got interrupted by Mark Sterling and Tony Nese. Mark Sterling was upset that Tony Nese is not being interviewed. Hook ended up standing up. He ended up running both Mark Sterling and Tony Nese off. So Danhausen was behind Hook. Danhausen, of course, trying to curse Hook. Hook casually ended up tossing the medicine ball over his shoulder. And Danhausen ended up catching the medicine ball, and he ended up falling down. And that was that. But when is Danhausen getting in the ring? They should put Danhausen in the ring Are they going to make that match Danhausen versus Hook? No, if they book that match, Hook will easily win it. So, but that was that. Comedy from Danhausen still. Danhausen still failing with his curse on Hook. So then we went backstage and we saw Scorpio Sky, Ethan Page, and Dan Lambert. Scorpio Sky is set to defend the TNT Championship against Sammy Guevara at Battle of the Belts 2, which is on April 16th. So that should be, a good match there. Guevara and Scorpio Sky. And why Sammy Guevara and Tay Conti have been coming out and, trashing, Dan Lambert and Ethan Page, Scorpio Sky is because Sammy Guevara wants his match for the TNT Championship. And then we went to Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Will Hobbs versus Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. Ricky Starks, this was in his hometown of New Orleans, and this was an awesome match. The crowd was behind Ricky Starks because, of course, New Orleans guy. So they end up coming out first, Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs, and then Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. Swerve, he's over with the crowd. Everybody enjoys Keith Lee. Yeah, I'm a fan of Keith Lee ever since, he was in NXT, which WWE fucked him over as he got on the main roster. Boy, do we really not want to think about Keith Lee's WWE main roster run. Absolutely fucking terrible that was. So the match started off with Swerve and Ricky Starks. Starks went and tagged in Hobbs. Hobbs ended up taking down Swerve with a shoulder block, ended up tossing him into the corner with a fallaway slam. Ricky Starks tagged in. Starks started working on Swerve's arm. Starks ended up running up the corner, and he rope walked while holding Strickland's arm. He ended up dropping a punch on Strickland. And, Ricky Starks was trying to do the Undertaker there. Strickland ended up using his speed to take down Starks with a drop kick. He then went and tagged in Keith Lee. Starks tried to use his speed to evade Keith Lee, but he ended up running out of the room. He got back into the corner. Keith Lee ended up doing a double overhand chop to Ricky Starks, which echoed throughout the arena. So Swerve Strickland ended up taking back in. He ended up bringing Keith Lee back in. Hobbs ended up charging, but missed Keith Lee. He ended up tumbling outside the ring. Strickland springboards into a moonsault off the chest of Keith Lee to the outside onto both Ricky Starks and Hobbs, which was awesome. So as Dynamite came back from the commercial, Hobbs was beating up on Strickland. Strickland ended up escaping a slam and tagged in Keith Lee. So Keith Lee ended up delivering shoulder tackles on Ricky Starks. He was then hit from behind by Hobbs. He shrugged Hobbs off. He leapt frogging Hobbs, charging at him, to which Hobbs ended up spearing Starks instead. Keith Lee ended up throwing Starks into Hobbs. And Strickland ended up taking in. Starks ended up escaping a suplex. Strickland ended up sending Starks out to the floor. He pulled Hobbs down off the apron. And so, at the end of the match, Hobbs and Keith Lee ended up going face to face. And the referee ended up breaking it up. And he ended up sending Hobbs back into his corner. Taz ended up making his way down to ringside. Keith Lee ended up lifting Starks into a powerbomb, but Hobbs ended up cutting off Swerve Strickland, who was on the top rope. So Ricky Starks ended up escaping Keith Lee, but he was put back up on the top rope. Starks end up pushing off Keith Lee. He ended up pinning a spear to Keith Lee from the second rope, to which Strickland ended up breaking up the pin with a splash. Hobbs ended up coming in, and Keith Lee ended up powering him up. Hobbs ended up escaping. Keith Lee ended up going off the ropes, and Taz got involved, and he grabbed Keith Lee's foot. And that led to Hobbs end up hitting the spine buster, and he ended up pinning Keith Lee. So there you go. Hobbs and Ricky Starks ended up winning the match. But overall, entertaining match. It was a good match from Hobbs and Ricky Starks and Keith Lee and Swerve Strickland. And then they went over what we're going to see Friday on Rampage, which Rampage starts on Friday at 7 o'clock, not 10. So we have Rampage at 7 and then 2 hours of SmackDown. But on Rampage this Friday, we're going to see the Texas Death Match, where it's going to be Hangman Adam Page versus Adam Cole, where the AEW World Championship is going to be on the line. We're going to have the Blackpool Combat Club versus the Gun Club, Austin and Colton. The qualifying match in the Owen Hart Foundation Women's Tournament, Ruby Soho versus Robin Renegade, which that will possibly be a good match because of Ruby Soho. Finally, Ruby Soho is going to be on TV. It's been a while because Ruby Soho is wrestling on AEW Dark. Let's get Ruby Soho on Rampage like we're going to see on Friday, and let's get her back on Dynamite. Ruby Soho is not AEW Dark material. So those are the matches that we're going to see Friday on Rampage. And then they went over what we'll see at Battle of the Belts 2, which is going to take place this Saturday. So it's going to be Thunder Rosa versus Nyla Rose for the AEW Women's World Championship. Scorpio Sky versus Sammy Guevara for the TNT Championship. And the Ring of Honor World Championship is going to be on the line. Jonathan Gresham, who is the Ring of Honor World Champion, he's going to be facing Dalton Castle. So that's what we're going to see at Battle of the Belts 2 on Saturday night. Should be a good show. It's going to be an hour. And then they went over what we'll see next week on Dynamite. We're going to get Wardlow versus The Butcher. Hook in his Dynamite debut. We have 2 Owen Hart Foundation tournaments for the men and the women, qualifying matches. So the women's match is going to be Dr. Britt Baker versus Daniel Camille, I think that's how you pronounce her last name. So you can tell that Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, is going to win the match. And for the men's qualifying match there for the Owen Hart Foundation tournament, it's going to be Jungle Boy versus Kyle O'Reilly. And then we're going to have the coffin match, Darby Allin versus Andrade El Idolo. And Tony Khan will be making a huge announcement. That announcement, who knows what it will be, but my guess, maybe it has something to do with Ring of Honor. Maybe Ring of Honor is going to be on HBO Max. They might have an HBO Max deal. So that's my prediction. It may be something else, but it's probably going to be something to do with Ring of Honor. And then we had Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone was backstage with Thunder Rosa, and Nyla Rose and Vicky Guerrero end up interrupting her. Nyla Rose was holding a cake, and Thunder Rosa end up just pushing the cake into Nyla Rose's face, and they end up brawling. And Nyla Rose end up hitting Vicky Guerrero by accident. Then Thunder Rosa and Nyla Rose just started brawling. And that was basically that. Main event. The Ring of Honor World Television Championship was on the line. Minoru Suzuki defended the title against Samoa Joe. And this was a pretty entertaining match here. Minoru Suzuki, he was a good wrestler. And Samoa Joe, really happy to see him in AEW. Samoa Joe is going to fit well. Suzuki and Joe end up staring down at each other as the match ended up beginning. So they were just trading chops at each other, and they were just chopping all the way. Their chests were already red, both Suzuki and Joe, from all the chops. Joe ended up switching to forearms. Suzuki kept just delivering some forearms to Joe. It was very back and forth physical match from both Suzuki and Joe. Suzuki ended up pausing for a few moments to acknowledge the crowd, and then he went right back to trading strikes to Joe. And neither Suzuki or Joe were budging much here. Joe's chest was already turning bright red from the chops and the forearms from Suzuki. So at this point, both men were just throwing forearms at each other. The pacing of the match was starting to slow down a bit. Suzuki ended up coming off the ropes, and Joe delivered a shoulder tackle that ended up taking Suzuki down. Suzuki ended up rolling to the ring apron. Joe ended up going to get him, and Suzuki ended up trapping him in an arm submission in the ropes. So they both ended up rolling to the floor. As Dynamite came back from the commercial, Joe had Suzuki in the crossface. Suzuki ended up getting his foot on the ropes to break up the hold. Suzuki then ended up reversing a whip, which took Joe down with a snapmare. And he delivered a penalty kick on Joe, so Suzuki went for the cover. Joe kicked out at 2. Suzuki ended up pulling Joe into a position for a pile driver, and he wanted to trade more chops with Joe, and they were just trading chops back and forth once again. Suzuki ended up ducking a chop, ended up locking in a sleeper hold, to which Joe powered up Suzuki and slammed him down to break up the sleeper hold. Joe came off the ropes. He ended up running into a drop kick from Suzuki. Suzuki then ended up locking back in the sleeper hold on Joe, and he positioned him for the Gastile pile driver, but Suzuki could not get Joe up. Suzuki locked in the sleeper hold again, but Joe backed Suzuki into the corner. Joe ended up putting Suzuki on the top rope, and he wanted to hit the muscle buster, but Suzuki ended up going to an armbar. So Joe ended up powering out. He ended up getting the muscle buster on Suzuki. He ended up going for the cover. And there you go. Samoa Joe ended up winning the match. And Joe is your new Ring of Honor World Television Champion. So that was awesome. Post-match, we had Sanjay Dutt, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, and Jay Lethal. They ended up taking the mic, and they had a box in hand. So Jay Lethal was like, oh, we're going to open the box now. And so Jay Lethal ended up flipping off Joe, and the lights ended up going out. And when the lights came back on, we saw Satnam Singh in the ring. And Satnam Singh is this former basketball player from India, and he's 7'3". The guy signed with AEW last September. So Singh ended up clotheslining Joe, and that helped Jay Lethal and Sanjay Dutt to beat up on Joe. Joe tried to fight back, and Satnam Singh grabbed Joe from behind in a head vice, and Jay Lethal finished it off and he hit the lethal injection on Joe, and that was pretty much basically that. But this was an awful end to Dynamite. Satnam Singh, when he came to the ring and locked in that vice on Samoa Joe, I'm like, oh my god. We have the AEW version of Great Khali. Great Khali or Omos. And that's not good. That's absolutely terrible. We got Satnam Singh, AEW's Great Khali / Omos. God. I don't believe it. I really don't. Like I said earlier, the issues that I had with the show was the debut of Marina Shafir and also Satnam Singh. Might as well be, like I said, the Great Khali and Omos of AEW. The Walmart versions of Great Khali and Omos. All in one with Satnam Singh. We all know how Great Khali and Omos are. Absolutely terrible in the ring. So yeah, but what an awful end to Dynamite. But still, take out Marina Shafir's match and this ending with Satnam Singh. It was a good show. Dynamite was a good show. If you take out those two issues. But Samoa Joe versus Minoru Suzuki was a very entertaining match, even though the match slowed a little bit later on. But anyways, that's it for the Dynamite review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely get the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. And there will be no SmackDown and AEW Rampage review this Friday. So I won't be doing reviews of both shows. But until the next video, I'll see you all later.